What's up?
Oh, I'm just compiling all the top sports scores, news, and odds so I can make the very best bets.
Me too. BetOnline.ag.
Join today and receive your 50% welcome bonus at betonline.ag.
And we're coming at you a week ahead of the draft. We waited a couple of days, and thank goodness we did, because there's meat on the bone that's come out over the last 2 hours as John and I sit here on Wednesday afternoon recording this edition of Celtics Stuff Live, coming at you Thursday morning to get you ready. T-minus 1 week. We know a deal. If anybody's going to do one for Anthony Davis on behalf of the Celtics organization, Danny specifically, it's going to be kind of done before the draft because they're going to have to make some picks, I believe. So things should be heating up. And guess what? Actually, they are. John, do you want to run it down for the listeners?
Oh my God, when do we run it down? And, you know, this is the funny thing. You listen to this like 24 hours after this is happening, and it's like, why were they so hyped up and out of breath? But it's kind of been a wild and woolly little bit here. Never mind KD, which, you know, could change the landscape of things, and almost never mind Kyrie. Really, the big story right now is Woj just reported that the Celtics and Lakers are engaging in talks with the Pelicans, and it's really those two teams. It's not Brooklyn and the Clippers have not really been able to get any traction, and so really it's Celtics and Lakers time. And then you put with that Mark Stein, who has done some reporting to say, look, it's Ingram, it's Ball, and it's number 4. And really, Stein also kind of goes forward and says they need to turn 4 into a player to be in to really make that palatable to the Lakers. The Lakers.
Well, okay, so let's stop there for a second. Let's digest that piece, okay? Because now we're talking about the Celtics, who do not have any rumored offers on the table.
Right.
But let's look at that. If that's the truth, that 4 has to turn into a player, and then they have Lonzo and Ingram, let's just work it backwards for what the Celtics would have to offer.
Exactly.
So let's say Marcus Smart is equal to the number 4. Let's say, you know, Ingram and Brown, or maybe Lonzo and Brown, although Brown is better than Lonzo in my opinion, and then Tatum and Ingram. Like, that's what I'm looking at if that's what the Lakers are offering. I don't know what they would get for the number 4, and I think it's an overpayment on the Celtics side, but obviously the Pels are going to want younger players because that's what they're looking at here. I don't know who else would go in said deal, and you have too much of a drop-off after Smart, Tatum, and Brown to really compete with that package. Not that it's not more than the Lakers. It absolutely is. Is it too much for Celtics fans? It is for my blood, but at the same time, working this deal backwards, where else do you go with it, John?
Well, I think taking it in maybe a different perspective, I think you could
Spin
say
the Memphis pick into a player.
Well, yeah, well, I don't think you have to. I think you put the Memphis, if you have to put the Memphis pick in, I think Memphis pick is probably better than Ball and better than Ingram, because what's going on with the blood clot situation. I mean, that's part of the issue here, is that the Lakers have a bit of distressed assets. I mean, all 4, well, I'd say all 3 of those assets have some major questions.
Ball is questionable. Ingram's an injury concern, and number 4 is an unknown in a draft that's not as strong as next year. So do you think, though, that they would bite on the rumored Tatum, Smart, and number 6 deal? Brown stays in town.
I think so. I think there's an argument to be made that they don't even need to put Tatum in. And I know I'm probably in the minority on that one, but
well, now I'm sold. I'm doing that deal 6 ways till Sunday.
Well, no, I think you put Brown in instead. That's going to lose you, I'm sure.
Yeah,
but tell me something. I mean, are any of those Lakers assets better than Jaylen Brown?
No, I don't think so. They're definitely, you know, and I think there's an argument to be made right now as we stand at the end of this past season that Brown is more valuable than Tatum. We would not have said the same thing a year ago, but the maturity of Brown over this season, accepting that role, the athleticism, etc., the fact that he's gotten his 3-point shot together after coming into the league with question marks from the free throw line and an atrocious 3-point percentage, and just the jump out of the gym athleticism. And what he's done when, you know, last season in the postseason, when, you know, he had the ball in his hands a lot more, and what he was able to do in the playoffs. I mean, I think there's all kinds of things that you could say today. Now, if you're projecting this out, do you really think Brown's going to be a better player than Tatum? I don't know, man. That arc is really hard to predict. There's a lot to be loving about Tatum for sure. And if you'd asked me a year ago, even after the postseason, I probably still would have said Tatum. But there's question marks there. Your question though, that's an easy one. I don't see how anybody would take Ingram or Lonzo Ball over Brown right now.
I'm getting this sense because there's a piece in Woj's article. He says the Lakers appear to be trying to exercise some level of restraint in trade talks, especially given that they hold the leverage as Davis's preferred destination. So I'm somewhat reading the tea leaves there, and I'm saying the Lakers are somewhat holding back, right? Well, if the Celtics deal was so good, okay, and everyone seems to believe that Tatum is the top prospect of those two teams. He's the best of both teams' prospects, and that seems to be where the Celtics have been kind of stuck, or where the Pelicans are. Why wouldn't the Pelicans make that deal? And it seems to me the answer is Tatum's not yet secured as part of the deal, and the Lakers too are holding back pieces. So we
Oh man,
maybe
you are teeing this up for the next stage. So hold on.
totally.
Before we go there, follow Celtics Stuff Live on Twitter at CSL_tweet live, as well as your host. You can follow me at CSL_Justin. John is at CSL_Duke, and the entire CLNS Media Network at CLNS Media. Facebook.com/CLNS fans, and download the CLNS Media app for iOS and Android. Simply search for CLNS Media in your app marketplace. The youtube.com/CLNS Media channel for high definition, full length locker room interviews, the Garden Report, the Roundtable, and Celtic Stuff Live. Yours truly. So, John, that tees up what you were just talking about, the Rich Paul piece. No extension. Don't even try. Here's the damage. If the Celtics have the better offer, just in general for players, and Rich Paul is saying he's not going to sign extension. He's going to, free agency, and his faves are New York and LA. Isn't he driving the Celtics offer down and actually giving them negotiating leverage? And yet, at the exact same time that the price is coming down for the Celtics, that Lakers deal that maybe Rich Paul wants to see happen, maybe doesn't happen because the Pels never get what they want. If we can get this we've seen this happen. A player like this who should never have their value drop out of the bottom. What is Rich Paul thinking? And maybe Rich Paul's thinking, if the Celtics retain a decent amount of assets and Davis does decide he wants to stay, at least there's still something of a team there for him to have lots of depth, or maybe there's another trade to be done with the assets that are remaining. This is my opinion. While I understand that LA and New York are the big markets that Rich Paul would want, I also understand that Rich Paul wants Anthony Davis on a winner. He wants a happy client. He wants championships. He wants to be able to go and tell his other clients, both current and future clients, that he's put his players in the best possible position to win, and with great organizations, which he could say, should the Celtics build the right team around Davis and they go win a championship. And I will say also, the fact that this Raptors team is playing the way that they are, and I get the injuries are there, and I understand there's some mismatches that has left on the floor for Golden State, but this was a team, even at the beginning of this season and definitely over the last 5 years, that was nearly an unbeatable team even before Kevin Durant, never mind the injury, which we'll talk about in a second. And yet all of a sudden, Kawhi Leonard makes this big of an impact. It just says that we're ready to see another transition in the NBA. And for all intents and purposes, Kevin Durant's going to spend next season rehabbing.
I'm surprised you said that, because I thought you might go the other direction, but I completely agree with you, and I think that's where we're seeing things shift. Is it's going to be practically impossible to build teams like the Warriors. I mean, just we're seeing that archetype is gone. So how else can you win? You can have depth and you can have a star player. The depth is going to be tough, but if you have a star player the level of Anthony Davis, a top 5 guy, a top 6 guy in the
Kawhi
league,
Leonard now, because he's coming up for free agency, and what he has done makes his gamble and the bet he made on himself just a huge payout. Boy, did he just show him.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Showed him. And then you also get a chance to be in that winning environment and maybe stick around for a time.